I'm 26 and I'm going to retire by 30. And before you call me delusional, here's exactly how I'm going to make this happen. My yearly expenses will be about $45,000.
When I tell people I want to retire at 40, they laugh, but I have a plan. It costs me about $50,000 to exist. That's my bills, my mortgages, just to be here.
I don't want to wait until I'm 65 to retire. If I'm 30, single, and making $150,000, here's what I do to retire at 50.
Here's exactly what I'm doing in my 20s to retire by my 30s, because I don't want to be 65 and working. So before I started making passive income, I normally kept 3 to 6 months of expenses on there. And I also have an emergency shopping account because a girl's got to shop. If it prevents me from touching my investments or my savings account, then that's something that I will have to do. Don't knock it down till you try it.
When I say that I want to retire early, that does not mean that I want to completely stop being productive, period, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to be a couch potato 12 hours a day. I mean getting out of the corporate hellscape that we all live in nowadays, right? I want to get away from stupid people that I don't have to deal with. I want to get out of systems and companies that clearly are doing everything to screw over the customer and the employees while all they care about is improving their short-term profit.
And I think that this is more attainable for most people than you might realize. I think if you set a plan for yourself or you work together with who you're with, your spouse, and set a plan, even if you're making the median wage in the United States, if you're making 40K, 50K, 60K.
When I tell people I want to retire at 40, they laugh, but I have a plan. It costs me about $50,000 to exist. That's my bills, my mortgages, just to be here. But it costs me another $50,000 probably to travel, to spend, to splurge, just to have a little bit more money, some savings. I need about $100,000 to live off every single year. And to have that, I need $2.5 million invested. Now I have 1 point and a bit million invested already, so I can live off the 50K, but I need another million to get me there, and then I can retire by 40. And I know not everyone is lucky enough as me to have begun investing so young, but the truth is you can start now and you do not have to wait till 65 to retire. You can get there at 50, at 45, maybe even sooner. But it really pays to get started.
Okay, really quickly, just so you know, she didn't pull that $2.5 million number out of thin air, out of her butt. I'm gonna tell you how she got that number. So what she did is she took $100,000, what she thinks she's going to need in retirement, and she divided it by 0.04%, which gives her $2.5 million. And so she goes, okay, now I know I need to put $2.5 million away into investments. So you're gonna hear that theme often as we go through the video of people planning to retire early. Most people intend to retire early using what they have invested in the stock market, whether it be into ETFs, index funds, individual stocks, you name it. Now her situation, I don't know if she has kids, I don't know if she has a spouse, I don't know what's going on. It seems like she's single, living her best life. And so I don't know if she plans on those things occurring in the future, because if they do, they're probably going to change her number. So a lot of times I look at it like, okay, if I'm a single guy like myself, I could easily get to the point where I could retire. I shouldn't say easily, but it's a lot easier than if I factor in kids, and if I factor in a spouse could be helpful actually, because we have 2 incomes now, but factor in kids, take that into account.
I'm 26 and I'm going to retire by 30. And before you call me delusional, here's exactly how I'm going to make this happen. My yearly expenses will be about $45,000. I own an investment property that will be paid off by 40, netting me $25,000 a year. That means my portfolio only needs to cover the full 45K for the first 10 years and 20K a year after that. Most people use the 4% rule for their retirement number, but that's based off a 30-year retirement plan starting at 65. I'm going to go with 3% for early retirement. Now here's what I would need. The first major milestone is soft retirement, aka work flexible, doing a chill part-time job that covers half my expenses while my investments cover the other. The second is full retirement, where I never have to work again. So with a 3% withdrawal rate starting at 30, soft retirement or barista fire would require about $833,000. Full fire would require $1.5 million. Sadly, I also want to buy a house in my 30s, which would require about $200,000 if I were to go half in a down payment. That brings my soft retirement number up to about $1 million and full retirement up to $1.7 million. I'm projecting at least $250,000 yearly income over the next 4 years, $120K for my job, at least $130K for my side hustles. I'm hoping I make more for my side hustles every year, but I might decrease my hours in my second job. I might job hop and get a raise. So let's just say about $250K a year, which would be about $165 after taxes. My expenses right now are only 15 to 20K a year and may increase to $40K if I move out in 2 years. If I average $30K expenses in the next 4 years, that's $540,000 saved. I currently have about $460,000 invested, so that would put me at $1 million with just my earnings. But with job hopping, side hustle growth, and compounding interest, I might be closer to 1.5 mil by 30. So that's my plan. I'll be somewhere between 1 mil to 1.5 mil. We'll definitely be soft retired by 30, maybe full retired. I don't know.
She said a lot of numbers there. She was speaking very quickly. She went over a lot of math. I'm not going to bore you to death with her math. Let's just keep it big picture. Number one, she says she wants to retire by 30. She has two plans for that. Soft retirement, she calls it, and full retirement. Soft retirement means she's working a part-time job. That's what she called it, barista fire. Again, FIRE means financially independent, retire early. It's an acronym. I don't know how serious she is, but I will give her credit for thinking about this and actually making steps towards being able to retire early and for having so much invested at a young age. Because the worst case scenario is she continues to work for another 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. She's going to be set whenever she does plan to retire. Also, if you notice in her situation, she's also going to include rental income in her FIRE number. So like I mentioned before, a lot of people who are in the FIRE movement, they use strictly money invested into the stock market most times. You're going to see that. Or they're, you see a lot of people online, they'll say they're retired, but really they're content creators. I don't want to call anybody out. Some of the channels I watch myself, but they'll say they're fired and they're, financially independent, retire early, but really they're making a good amount of money off of content creation. Let's keep it real. So those people, I don't really necessarily count them as actually being fired. Now, there are some people out there who are actually fired. A lot of those people, sometimes they also live off of their spouse. So they'll not be working, but their spouse will still be working to help supplement income. Again, close but no cigar. I'm not going to call those people fired. Nonetheless, something to keep in mind, other sources of income in retirement and how you define it. There's many ways to define retirement, and it's not simply just, I don't work at all. I sit on the beach. I sit in my backyard. I read my books. I don't lift my finger to do labor. That's not essentially what retiring early really is.
I don't want to wait until I'm 65 to retire. If I'm 30, single, and making $150,000, here's what I'd do to retire at 50. I'd invest $1,000 a month into a Roth 401k and $1,000 a month into a taxable brokerage account. This would be about 20% of my income, and I'd invest in whatever my risk tolerance allows. For some, it's low-cost index funds. For others, it's individual stocks. But the goal is to earn about 8% annually. By 50, each account should grow to about $1.1 million. At retirement, I'd withdraw $150,000 per year from my taxable brokerage account. After standard deductions and a capital gains tax rate at 15%, I'd be taking home about $130,000. The taxable brokerage would last about 8 years. I'd run out of money by age 58. Meanwhile, my Roth 401k keeps compounding and should reach about $2.5 million by the time I start withdrawing from it at age 58. From 58 onward, I can withdraw tax-free from my Roth 401k for the rest of my life. The takeaway? Even if you're starting later, a solid investment plan makes early retirement possible. But the sooner you start, the easier it gets.
Okay, so there are a few assumptions here. Okay, here's the thing. Single, ready to mingle, much easier. High income, $150 a year. The other thing that he's saying that's an assumption is 8% annual return. Yes, historically the stock market has returned, or let's say that historically the S&P 500 has returned maybe a 10% after adjusting for inflation, maybe 7%. Thing about it is there are periods of time where you have bear markets. There are periods where you have recessions. There are periods, I don't know about depression, but point is, what's the market going to be doing? Because it may be a 5, 10 plus year period where all stocks are down or the market is completely down, in which case you're withdrawing from your portfolio when it's down. And so in his scenario of the 8%, that is a, let's say, best case scenario. Another thing you have to take into account is health insurance. How are you going to get your health insurance? Health insurance that's not tied to your employer, which in the United States, health insurance is for the most part tied to where you work. It's very expensive to get private health insurance. Also, let's say you decide that maybe you change your mind, you don't want to retire early, or you're already 10, 15 years in. All that time you were not paying into Social Security. And again, will Social Security even be here by the time that I or you retire? Who knows? They've been saying it's going to be insolvent for a long time now. But the amount that you get in Social Security is based upon how much you earn. I think it's your last 30, well, they take 35 years and they average it out, the highest you've earned. And so if you're not working for a long period of time, that's going to be less Social Security benefits that you get to draw. So there's a lot of factors to take into account when you're talking about early retirement. And again, I'll say this, a lot of people who make videos that are talking about being retired early or planning to retire early, a lot of them don't actually plan on just living off their investments. They plan on having side income, whether it be making money online or from some kind of business, or whether it be from working part-time, or whether it be from their spouse. So again, take it with a grain of salt.
Other people on the path to retirement can chime in on this with me if you agree, but when I say that I want to retire early, that does not mean that I want to completely stop being productive, period, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to be a couch potato 12 hours a day, which I may be for half of the day, right? I want to catch up on all the classic shows I've missed out on. I wanted to get into different animes, play all the video games, learn the wonderful works from all the classical composers in mankind's history. Like, I want to appreciate all that stuff at some point in my life. But no, I mean getting out of the corporate hellscape that we all live in nowadays, right? I want to get away from stupid people that I don't have to deal with. I want to get out of systems and companies that clearly are doing everything to screw over the customer and the employees while all they care about is improving their short-term profits, right? That's what I want to escape. I still want to do stuff on my own. I have lots of different avenues that I want to pursue to try to make money. But the lucky thing about being financially independent is you no longer have to do those things, right? You're on your terms. You're not super stressed about trying to make a certain project take off or a certain business to be successful. No, those are things that you can just choose to do, and what happens, happens, but you don't have to do it to cover your essentials and your basics. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I say, hey, I want to retire and I want to get out and get away from all this. It's just to have the freedom to do it on my time.
So I love this because his philosophy is the exact philosophy that I follow. And honestly, the underlying philosophy of a lot of these people who you just saw who are trying to be financially independent, retired early. It's more so the FI than the RE. It's the financial independence. It's the ability to have your time freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, and not stress about having to make money to pay for your life. That's what it's all about. So it's not even necessarily about not working ever or not being a productive citizen in society and just sitting on your butt all day and doing nothing but playing video games and watching movies. That is not what it's about. It's about not having the stress to deal with the corporate grind, as he mentioned, if that's what you do, or the blue collar grind, if you're in a blue collar grind, or whatever grind you're in. And even if you choose to stay in that grind, it's much more enjoyable if you know that you're not doing it because you have to, but because you want to. Now, is there much of a difference when it comes to the math? Not really. You're still going to use the 4% safe withdrawal rule, or the, buy investment properties to live off of the income from your investment properties, or build businesses that kind of run automatically. You're still doing all the same numbers and the same math, but you're no longer, striving for the day that you just clock out and never clock in again. You're more so striving for the day where, okay, I can choose to work part-time. I can choose to do a sabbatical for a year. I can choose to wake up and do whatever I want in the morning because I don't have to be somewhere to make money because I have investments paying for it for me. And I think that this is more attainable for most people than you might realize. I think if you set a plan for yourself, or you work together with who you're with, your spouse, and set a plan, I think that the basic principles are key for all of us. Like the Dave Ramsey method, get out of consumer debt. If you can, even pay off your mortgage, if you can do it in a reasonable amount of time, and have an emergency fund, stay out of credit card debt, do these simple things. And that provides you with so much more freedom. Even if you're making the median, wage in the United States, if you're making 40K, 50K, 60K, even single or between you and your spouse, it goes so much further now without the debt, all the stress. And you can now do things you enjoy, go out to different places, spend money on Disney, if you want to go to Disney, spend money on the fair if you want to go to the fair, spend money on traveling if you want to go traveling, and not put it on debt and not be stressed about it. So I think that the underlying foundation of the financial independent retirement movement, I think, is something that we all can embrace. Not just those of us who want to retire early. Even if you want to retire at the traditional age, I think embracing the principles and the philosophy of it is something that we all could benefit from.
Here's exactly what I'm doing in my 20s to retire by my 30s, because I don't want to be 65 and working. Long-term investing. My first one is a Roth IRA, so my money can grow tax-free for the future. And I also have a 401k, but since now I'm self-employed, I moved it over to a solo 401k. And then I also keep a brokerage account for flexible investing. Oh, and then I also have a SEP IRA, which is a self-employment retirement fund. And that's also how I've already built over $130,000 in investments, because compounding is amazing. Another thing that I've been doing is day trading. Now, day trading is hard, but your girl's always up for a challenge. If you don't know what day trading is basically doing short-term trades to take advantage of the daily market movements. Third thing that I'm doing is building income outside of investing. I recently started content creation 10 months ago. I've grown this page up to almost over 150k views guys now. Same thing with Instagram. I'm almost at 40k on there. Besides content creation, I've also been doing digital marketing. For content creation, digital products, I've already made over $400,000 this year. Another thing that I'm doing is that I'm saving pretty aggressively, but not in a miserable kind of way. I save where I can. The way that I track all my savings through my budgeting template because everything's automated on there, but it makes sure that every single dollar that I put on has a job. And I also keep an emergency fund with a year's worth of expenses, but obviously a year's worth is kind of a lot. So before I started making passive income, I normally kept like 3 to 6 months of expenses on there. And I also have an emergency shopping account because a girl's got to shop. If it prevents me from touching my investments or like my savings account, then that's something that I will have to do. Don't knock it down until you try it.
Now that is interesting. She has a separate account for shopping, an emergency shopping account. Now, when is shopping ever an emergency unless it's food? I don't think that really exists, but I think it's fun nonetheless. And I think it's a cool hack she's using to not touch her main money. So shout out to her. So let's go over it really quickly. We kind of already touched over all this in the video. Long-term investments, a lot of times those are going to be your retirement accounts because you can't touch them until a certain age. So a lot of times, like with a Roth IRA, you have to be 59 and a half to start touching that money penalty free and without paying taxes on it, unless just your contributions you put in. She has some other long-term investments, 401ks, things of that nature. She's self-employed, so self-directed Roth IRA or whatever she said. There's different accounts, SEP IRA. I'm not gonna get to all those right now. That's not the point of the video. Then she has day trading. Day trading is not investing, it's trading. So that's almost like a side hustle for her. Then she has her businesses, and I think she mentioned something else at the end that she does, which I forgot. Point is, she's making, she has savings accounts and whatnot, years worth of emergency fund. She's protecting herself very well. If you notice, a lot of these people in this video do make a decent amount of income or they have a side hustle. But again, we can all do side hustles. It's not unique to just these people on this video. Again, not to beat a dead horse, I think the main takeaway from this video is to, number one, live below your means and get out of debt as fast as possible. That's number one. Number two, I would say, is to find other ways to make income aside from your main source, whether that be your W-2 job or whatever you do for your main source of living. Number three, I'll throw this one in there. I think that we all need to find our North Star. So what I mean by that is, for some people, it's retiring early. That's what drives them. Will they actually do it when they get to that number they have in mind? Maybe not, probably not. But that's their North Star. That's what they're working towards. For someone else, it may be paying off their mortgage. For someone else, it may be the ability to take as many vacations you want, whenever you want, whenever, right? So whatever your North Star is, whatever gets your juices flowing and gets you motivated to save, invest, and pay off debt, do that. Whatever that is. It may not be retiring early for you. It could be anything. It could be paying for your kids to go to school and for them not to have to take out student loans. It could be to buy all the nice cars you ever wanted to buy and not have to go into debt for them. Whatever it is that drives you, I think we can use that as fuel to allow us or to prompt us to make smart, prudent financial decisions, such as investing for the long term, such as having an emergency fund, such as learning about how basic investments work, stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, CDs, money market accounts, mutual funds, you name it, crypto, real estate. It's endless. I think whatever it takes, this is just one of the ways people motivate themselves. It's one of the ways I motivate myself. I like to think about it, okay, when I'm 40 years old, 45 years old, I will not have to work. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But there's more than that. For me, it's also about, my dad's always wanted a Jeep Wrangler. I want to buy my dad a Jeep Wrangler. I want to send my mom on vacations. I want to be able to pay for my kids to go to private school if that's what me and my spouse decide to, and be able to do it without any issues. You know, there's a lot of different factors in it. It's not just to sit around and watch TV and movies and play video games. That's not what it's about. That being said, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think. Are you on your own journey to financial independence, retire early, or just financial independence? Or what do you think? What are you trying to do? Do you care about it? Do you say, oh, you know what? I don't even want to retire early. I'd be bored out of my mind. I want to keep working till I pretty much croak. You know, what's your flavor? Let me know. That being said, thanks for sticking around watching the video. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, make smart financial decisions.